Hi everyone, welcome back to my sewing studio. Today we are going to talk about my favorite feet for the sewing machine. Now I have a Bernina machine, although the feet I'm going to talk about, there should be an equivalent for your machine if you don't have a Bernina, but because I do have a Bernina, I will give you the numbers for that. Having the right foot can really help you get just a much better result with particular techniques. So I'm going to talk about some of my favorite ones and why I have them, why I want them. I do realize if you have a Bernina, their feet tend to be a little bit pricier. They have 1,000,000 feet. They can do all kinds of things. But these are just the 4 or 5 that I turn to constantly with my sewing. And so investing in these I have found really to be worthwhile. Okay, with that, let me introduce myself. I am Lisa, the owner and designer of Pink Holly Bush Patterns, a line of sewing patterns for children's wear, most of which include an option for smocking and most of which are designed for knit fabrics. But I am sewing for myself, my 2 adult daughters, all the time, so these feet are just the ones that I turn to all the time. Okay, with that, let's dive in. I have my little basket with my feet. Okay, so the first one that I want to talk about is the Bernina, the number 34, and that is the clear foot. And the reason I love it is just you can see exactly what you're doing all the time. The foot is not blocking your vision. It just is so helpful. It also has some markings on it, which I find helpful as well. So it just, I use this almost as my all-purpose foot because, it's just such a great foot. Now, until I got this, and if you don't have that, another equivalent, because the 34 is not standard with the machine, right? You have to go and buy that one separately. But what usually does come with it is the manual buttonhole foot, which is number 3. And the reason I like it, hopefully you see how it's got that nice big hole there? You really can see a lot right through that hole. At the same time, this is not an open toe foot. I have an open toe foot. There are certainly reasons to use an open toe foot, but the open toe foot doesn't often hold the fabric as securely. And this foot with the closed toe, and the same thing with the clear foot, there's just more to the foot that can hold that fabric for you as you're doing different techniques. So I find that the open toe is not a substitute for these two, but that I really do like and use these all the time. I don't use the manual buttonhole as much now that I have the clear, so if you don't have either, definitely go for the clear. But look and see, the manual buttonhole probably came with your machine. Another thing just about this foot while I'm talking about it is it has 2 grooves underneath. And that makes this kind of a good foot to use for the next feet. I'm going to recommend if you don't have them. And that is my piping feet. And so let me look down here in my little basket and find them for you. I happen to have 2 piping feet, number 30, and well, see, now I call them piping feet. They're actually not piping feet, they're pin tuck feet. The reason I call them piping feet is because that's what I use them for. I use them to make piping all the time. Now I have a whole video, I will link to it, on how to make piping cord. When I talk about piping, I am not talking about the piping cord that you can buy in a big box store that's ready-made. I'm talking about mini piping. Mini piping is used in heirloom sewing and smocking all the time. Since that is my background, I now have brought it and use it all the time in garments for myself and my daughters. And the reason is it is such an easy, subtle way to give a garment a couture finish. It just gives a nice edge. It's a beautiful way to finish edges on garments. And it's also an easy way to add just a little subtle pop of color if you want it. If you go tone on tone, again, it makes the garment just look a little bit more elevated. And I have another video on that too that I will link that shows you a little bit of what I mean. Again, when I say mini piping, it's so much smaller, uses mini piping cord. I have that piping cord for sale in the shop. I will put a link down below in the description. But the reason I have 2 feet, we have 31 and 30. The 31 is a 5 groove pin tuck foot. The 30 is a 3 groove. So I use the 5 groove pin tuck foot to make mini piping with wovens, and I use the 3 groove mini pipe 3 groove pin tuck foot to make mini piping out of knits. And so with the knit garments, especially where I've included the smocking, I'm using piping to support the smocking that's made out of with the 30 foot and the 3 groove pin tuck. With wovens, I'm always using that 5 groove pin tuck foot, and that is number 31. So again, these just make it so easy to do the piping. And if you don't have these, then usually what you have to turn to is a zipper foot. And it just, again, it's a matter of controlling and holding the fabric. The zipper foot, the traditional zipper foot, it's just riding along the piping edge, not over it, and so it doesn't control it as much. With these, you're putting that the cording right through the groove, which brings us back to those 2 grooves that are in the bottom, on the bottom of the buttonhole foots. If you don't have these, try this. I have another one for you to try again when we're talking about piping, and that is the invisible zipper foot. Again, I love this foot. It does a great job. You can run the piping through the invisible zipper, but if you ever put on an invisible zipper with this foot, it will be your favorite way to install a zipper. Whenever I can, I now use an invisible zipper in a garment because of this foot. It just, the coils of the invisible zipper go right through the grooves. It pushes them open and keeps them open and stitches right along up next to it. And then you take it out and kind of rolls back in on itself, and it just gives you a great finish. So that is another foot that I love. Okay, down in here, what are my other ones that I have for you? And those are 3 feet, all of which help me just get that really precise stitching. And so the first one is my edge stitch foot number 10. And the edge stitch foot has a blade on the bottom, and you just run that fabric right along that blade, and it lets you stitch so close to the edge. Just gives you such a pretty result. Now, again, number 10 doesn't come with your machine. So if you don't have an edge stitch foot, what does come with the machine is number 5. And that is your blind hem foot. Your blind hem foot will also have a blade. The blade extends back farther, and actually, I don't know if you can see it, but it's in also all the way back through the hole. So you don't have as much option with this to sort of move your needle over as far, which is why I like the number 10, the edge stitch foot. but play around with this. You can move it over a little bit and still get a great result. So if you don't have the blind hem foot, this will try, I mean, if you don't have the number 10 edge stitch foot, try it with a blind hem and see what kind of results you're getting. And then my very last foot, which I know so many people have, is and love, is your 1/4 inch foot, and particularly the 1/4 inch with the guide, because again, that lets you butt the fabric right up against that guide as you're going along and get a perfect 1/4 inch. Now, I know many of you are quilters out there, and I'm sure you are used to using this foot all the time. I'm actually not a quilter. I've done some of it in the past. Not my favorite thing, I'm sorry. But I love this foot. I use it for top stitching. I use it for things where I'm working with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. It just is a terrific foot as well. Use it all the time. So if I want a top stitch, I want to be right next, just a click or two off of the seam, I'm using that edge stitch foot. But if I want it over a little bit more, I'm using that 1/4 inch. So both of them are just letting me get a great result. Now, one of the feet I didn't mention is the walking foot. I know, again, out there, if you're a quilter, you might have a walking foot, you might absolutely love it. With my Bernina, I just haven't found that it really makes a difference. And I know a lot of people swear when you're working with knits that it makes a huge difference. And I've really found that sometimes it really depends on the machine. I find I just don't need it, and so I don't use it, just don't need it. So that is a foot. You might love it, you might want it, but it really isn't one that I use that often. These, however, they sit in this little basket because I use them constantly. So I'm not ever even putting them away. They are on the machine, off the machine, back on, and in the basket when they're not on the machine, so I can find them. So I hope that you will check out some of these feet. If you have a different foot that you really love, I would love to hear about it. Please put it down in the comments below, and I hope that these feet will help improve your sewing. If you enjoy this content, please make sure to hit that subscribe bell and give it a thumbs up, and happy sewing.